Welcome to the Think Broad podcast. We're excited to be here at Broad and Noble, the new apartment complexes here on North Broad Street. To learn more about our projects, visit us at northbroad.org and make sure you subscribe to be a part of our growing community of informed stakeholders. And with that, welcome to our today's guest. Could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. It's very nice to be here this afternoon for this conversation. I'm Mike Young. I'm president and CEO of Temple Health. I've been here about 6 years.
And could you talk more about what Temple Health is and everything that you oversee?
Sure. Most people think of Temple Health as being the University Hospital at 3400 North Broad, but we also have Episcopal in Kensington, Chestnut Hill, Fox Chase, Jeans Hospital, as well as 1,000 faculty members and about 100 primary care doctors from as far south as here and the whole way up to Fox Chase in North Philadelphia.
Wow. And so for today, because we're with the North Broad Renaissance, of course, we're going to focus on North Broad Street and talk about the dynamics of Temple, the Temple University Health System on North Broad, and how that plays a role in what the North Broad Renaissance is doing as it relates to business attraction and business retention. And so could you talk a little more about how Temple Health contributes to the overall economic vitality of the North Broad community?
Sure. Temple Health on the North Broad section has about 10,000 employees. 2,000 are from the community. They can walk or take the bus or the subway. So we're really a big part of the community. We provide $3.1 million in total expenditures, $3.1 billion, and that has about a $4.5 billion multiplier effect across North Philadelphia. So I think we're a pretty critical component of North Philadelphia.
Yeah. And so I like to share, I actually grew up in the neighborhood. My mom still lives in the neighborhood. I had both of my sons at Temple Health. So Temple is near and dear to my heart. And so I'm looking forward to ways that we can continue to be informed and we can continue to be a part of the community. So with that said, what strategies do you believe are most effective in business attraction to areas near Temple Health System, particularly in healthcare?
We think the biggest issue is we view the 750,000 people living in our community as our responsibility as our customers. So we try to identify what their unmet healthcare needs are and then make sure we provide those. So we offer a myriad of services from primary care to we're the largest lung transplant center in the United States. So we treat our local community as well as people from all around the country. So the most important thing to us is safety, cleanliness of the region, the vitality of the neighborhood. When people see positive things, they want to be a part of that positive. So we've really grown dramatically. When I got here, we were about $2 billion in revenue. Now we're up to 3.1. So the growth has been pretty good. We've added 4,000 employees since I've been here, over 1,000 downtown at the North Broad Street site. So that really brings a vibrancy. We've started new services. And we partner with the community. We're working with Zion Baptist to open a primary care office right next to Shriners. They didn't have enough money to do the project. We needed space. So we said, well, we'll give you a long-term lease, which allowed them to get a mortgage to renovate that building and bring it back on life. So that'll bring a whole block on North Broad Street into vitality. And just a couple weeks ago, the university bought the shopping center directly across from the dental school, and we're going to take the former pharmacy, which is now empty, and we're going to convert that into office space as well. Right close to the hospital, so people can be seen there. If they need testing, they walk across the street and get their lab tests drawn. So it's really adding to the vibrancy of the North Broad corridor.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about their project at Zion. And so I'm excited to see that you were able to support that. And then you also talked about the 10,000 employees that you have at the health system. How do you work to retain top talent and to ensure that the surrounding community benefit from these efforts?
Yeah, it's I've been a CEO since 1987, 5 times, and I've come to learn and understand it's really about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
It's about moving an organizational plan forward that creates a positive milieu, and then people want to come and work for an organization that's successful. I've also learned the most critical aspect is leadership development. So almost all of our management team has come from within Temple Health. The gentleman who's CEO of the hospital division, he started out in industrial engineering. Now he's CEO of 8 hospitals.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive. The woman who runs our practice plan, she started when she was 39 years old. She was our strongest hospital's physician, and the leader of our practice plan left. And I said, how'd you like to run the practice plan? And she said, what's a practice plan? I said, we'll teach you. So the practice plan has grown from 650 physicians downtown to 850. Our lawyer came from Boston. He had been the legal counsel for Aramark and went to the cancer center in Boston. And he walked in my office one day and said, hey, I hear your lawyer retired. Would you like me to come and work at Temple? So you get as many people growing inside as you can. Our head of marketing just retired after 32 years. He walked in, he said, I'm 69 years old. And I said, wow, you look about 59. He said, so it's time. So we elevated his number 2 just on Monday. And so as you develop opportunities for people want to come. And then once they come, they stay. Our Jeans Hospital, for example, last year had no new nurses resign, 0% turnover in fiscal 24. And the national average is about 25%. So showing the nurses growth and opportunity and teaching them and giving them opportunities, they want to come and stay. And then on the physician side, you want to have world-renowned programs and make it exciting for them to research, to take care of patients, to teach the next generation of caregivers, and then finding programs that work. So we recently put a program in place. If you come and work with us as a nurse and you stay, you can get a $40,000 bonus. We just recently worked with the School of Nursing at the university to start a CRNA program. And in 3 years, we'll graduate 12 CRNAs, and hopefully by year 5, we'll be at 20. Half those nurses will stay at Temple. The other half will go somewhere else in the city, but fill vacant slots. And then people see our commitment to those programs, and then they want to stay and do good things.
Yeah, yeah. And how does that translate as you start to look at the community as it relates to business attraction and business retention, especially in the realm of small businesses? Does Temple have any programs that they have in place or maybe in the pipeline that you're thinking about supporting small businesses in the area, or maybe attracting small businesses?
Well, as our employee headcount grows, it becomes an interesting place to start restaurants. We recently sold some properties to a local restaurateur who wants to open a new restaurant. His current location wasn't big enough, so we came to an agreement. This is really prime real estate for us. We're currently not using it, but if I ever have to build a replacement hospital, it would be here. So we need a right to be able to buy it back, and we came to an agreement. So partnering with folks, Zion's a perfect example. The shopping center is an example. And just walking down from where I park my car, I passed NovaCare and DaVita, and as the healthcare services and employment grow up on our end of North Broad, businesses will want to come because there's headcount.
Absolutely.
And these are well-employed folks, and they earn a lot of money, so they have disposable income, so it'll really be an attractive place.
How does that work when, as we try to keep the narrative of the community healthy, and how do you use that leverage with the dynamics of the employee base and the salary base and what they want, and to make sure we can advocate to make sure the the landscape of the narrative remains healthy, and that we can use that as leverage to attract businesses that contribute to the health and the vibrancy of the neighborhood.
Well, businesses are driven by cash flow,
Mm-hmm.
and when you add 1,000 employees, it's $10 million in revenue. After tax, it's $6 million. So they have a lot of disposable income, and so they want to eat lunch, breakfast, dinner. They need dry cleaners. They need other services.
Mm-hmm.
So as the growth of Temple continues, it'll continue to grow. The Zion Baptist, the pharmacy, Episcopal, other than Temple, has been abandoned in that Kensington region, and so we've recently expanded the ER, the CRC, the biggest need programs. We partner with food stores in the community to provide food for residents of the community. So we're in a sort of a supermarket desert.
That's right.
So by providing food and to patients, and food is like a medicine. It gives them the nutrition that they need to recover. And it's really true. If you look at surgical patients who are malnutrition versus not, the ones who are not recover much quicker and much better.
Yeah.
So it's finding out what the community needs and trying to partner with individual businesses. We partner with the high schools to motivate youngsters to go into STEM. Then we provide them with summer internships. So now they have money that they didn't have before. They think they know what healthcare is from television.
Mm-hmm.
And then they actually come and work either in the practices or in the hospital. And then they get excited about it. And it's like, gee, why don't you come work for us? You can get tuition assistance and go to Temple, and you can become a nurse, a doctor, an MP, a PA, and really enhance your life.
Mm-hmm.
And since these folks are from the neighborhood, they tend to want to stay in the neighborhood.
Yep.
And now they have an income to buy a house.
Yep.
Then they spiff up the house, and each house, each block at a time, the community rebounds.
Yeah. And that's the ripple effect of anchor institutions, right? And having anchor institutions along the corridor. And one of the things that the Northborough Renaissance is working on in that area is to create a health district and to work in partnership with the Temple Health System to change the narrative around health, right? And understanding that the type of businesses that come into the neighborhood help determine the type of health that the neighborhood will have. You mentioned that there's a food desert. So how do we start incentivizing key businesses in health to come to the neighborhood as it starts to vacancies become available? How do we replace those vacancies with health-related businesses? So that's definitely a key component. And also, how do we create a narrative in the neighborhood that says health? A few years ago, we hosted an outdoor dance class. And one of the things that I wanted to see what would happen is, will the community start to think differently about health when it's right there in the neighborhood, when they can see it evidently right there in the neighborhood? The same way when you go to Dilworth in the summertime and they have yoga classes outside, right? How do we bring those types of services into the neighborhoods that may need it most? And one of the things that I loved about that dance class is that while I was standing on the side and, some people were just watching the dance class takes place, this one gentleman said to me, he said, man, I can't remember the last time I worked out. Bingo. Because it was there, because he saw it, at the very least, he started thinking about, when was the last time I moved? When was the last time fitness was evident in my life? And so those are also things that we're working on in the health system and within the health district that we're proposing to bring health to an otherwise unhealthy neighborhood. And part of those things that I learned, I think this is true about you, if we were talking about the same thing, but you also work with the Lancaster Business Improvement District, and you had some hand in creating that. So what were some of the things that you saw there? I know Lancaster and Philly are completely two different areas, but are there any kind of lessons learned that you can take from the Lancaster Business Improvement District that you can bring to these efforts?
Well, the common denominator is John Fry,
Mm-hmm.
who's the new president of
That's
Temple.
right.
He was president of F&M, which was about 8 blocks up James Street, which
Mm-hmm.
is equivalent to North Broad, a major thoroughfare. We were in at the other end. And over time in Lancaster, the neighborhood began to decay,
Yeah.
as many inner cities have. And so John and I decided to start the James Street Investment District, which was very much like your organization, that, up James Street, one block on either side. And we began to find out what the neighbors' issues were,
Mhm.
what was working, what wasn't working. And the first step was security. So we started our own little security service, which covered a broader area. And then people felt safe.
Yeah.
And then it was pretty dark. So we paid homeowners to improve the lighting in that corridor. And suddenly it wasn't dark anymore. And I told somebody yesterday, I still live in Lancaster. I have a house in Manayunk. But when I go home on the weekends, we don't go downtown anymore because you can't find a parking space.
Yeah.
It's too crowded.
Yeah.
So downtown Lancaster also developed a citywide investment district, and the rest is history. I mean, houses have tripled in price.
Mhm.
Restaurants, it's really a food aficionado
Yeah.
location now.
Yeah.
And it started by two organizations sitting down and partnering with the folks. And, the best restaurants in town are right there. And the hospital, even after that, expanded by another 500 million. So we've put about 500 million in Temple, most of it at the Broad Street site since I've been there.
Mhm.
And so it's growing, it's vibrant. The head count has improved. And that's what you do. You do one project at a time.
Mhm.
You find a church that needs a partner. You find a shopping center that isn't doing very well, and we need space. So we just as soon partner with folks in the community, and you do a project, and pretty soon there'll be 300 people going in and out versus 100 in the pharmacy, and then they'll want to go eat lunch, and the pizza places will grow, and then a
Mhm.
nice
Mhm.
restaurant will come.
Yeah.
We interview over 2,000 students a year, so we hope the hotel finally goes through just north of Erie. It was pretty close, I understand, a year ago till the interest rates changed.
That's
But it's
right.
finding organizations like yours and business people like the restaurant that we sold the properties to make it work. And a couple years ago, some thieves broke into a school down in Kensington, and they stole all the copper. So the water ran all night.
Mm.
So their computer lab was ruined. So I called up IT and I said, let's send
Mhm.
100 computers down.
Mhm.
We rewired, and they missed one day.
Yeah.
And so it's just partnering with organizations in the community and finding out what the next best thing to do is, and then you do it.
That's
And
right.
then, oh wow, that building's been improved. Oh, look, a new business. And it's we talk about spiraling up at Temple. I believe as an organization, you're either spiraling up or you're spiraling down.
Mm.
So Temple is definitely spiraling up, and with the changes at Zion and the shopping center, this new restaurant, there's an optometrical, not sure that's the right word, a place that builds glasses is opening 3 blocks away.
Mhm.
So we're looking to see how we can get them in our health benefits networks. Our employees can get their glasses there, et cetera. So it's how do you make the community more attractive? And we're big believers in the whole patient, not just the healthcare. And we have
Yeah.
about
That's
100,000.
important.
Yeah, we have about
Mhm.
100,000 patients who we are responsible for, and that's why we have the food program.
Yeah.
That's why we have navigators and people who came to the ER 500 times a year. They have a navigator now. They call it a navigator, and they get into the office faster than I could get into
Yeah.
the office, and so they're down to 20 times a year, and their health is much better. So it's really partnering with the patients. The new women's hospital is going to have behavioral health services, cardiology services, all right there, so they don't have to hop to 10 different sites to get their care. They can
Mhm.
come and get it there. We've moved pediatrics there. The baby's born. You need a pediatrician. There it is. You build a relationship on day one.
Nice.
Parking is free. It's right off of Route 1. The bus route stops right out front. It's a beautiful facility. It looks like a Four Seasons compared to our old cramped center. So it's really finding unmet needs, resolving them. That becomes a positive influence on the neighborhood, and then the next thing happens.
Yeah. And what does health equity, what role does health equity play in the work of BIDS, and how can Temple Health align with those goals?
Health equity is a buzzword at a lot of places, but we were ranked number 1 in the state, and I think number 2 or 3 in the country for health equity. 90% of our patients are socially challenged and economically challenged. So everything we do is taken from that perspective. I'll give you an example. If you get a cancer diagnosis downtown, it was challenging to follow the process, unlike, say, Fox Chase, which is a more suburban community. So if you're in the hospital and maybe you're having a baby, as you said, your children were born there, and we do a blood test and we see you have an unusual finding, even before you leave within the hospital setting, we will set up an appointment for whoever you need to see. So it's done right there, all in one visit. Most health systems send you home, so when you come back a week later, they can get a second bill for that. But if we do that, half our patients don't come back.
Yeah.
So we do those services all in one stop. It costs us a lot of money, but at the same time, it's way better. So I think of the first 300 patients we ran through, over 180 of them had cancer and are now in care, whereas before we probably would have lost 60, 70, or 80 of those folks, and they would show up a year from now when their cancer is much more advanced. So it's really understanding the neighborhood, the patients that we serve, and making sure we deliver the service when and where they need it. And it has to be easy because they have work issues, babysitting issues, childcare issues.
Yeah.
It's much more challenging than the community hospital.
And that's a very good insight from inside the hospital. And then for the Northborough Renaissance, we work on the actual community aspect of it, right? So you mentioned clean and safe. That was the first thing you did. You made sure was in place. Same thing for the Northborough Renaissance. And so how do we work collectively to bring this vision to life of a health district along North Broad, making it a premier destination for healthcare research, making sure that it screams health for the community as well. The community, if they need something to eat, they have healthy food options as opposed to fast food and beer distributors. And, not saying that all that is bad, but when it's inundated in one place, it definitely does shape the health of a community. So how do we work together to bring that vision to life?
I think it's finding partnerships. So I talked about our food program with ShopRite, which does have a food store a couple blocks away. So we partner with them, and we have a weekly, I'll call it a farmer's market for lack of a better word, so folks can get it right there on site. And I think it's really finding partnerships with organizations like yours and businesses who are interested in staying or coming to North Philadelphia. And, we have health fairs maybe 12 times a year, and finding out, oh, I didn't know I was a diabetic. Okay, well, you can get your insulin here at the hospital. We'll mail it to your house if you want, so you don't have to go to 3 different places, one for diagnosis, one for treatment, and one for medicines. And it's really trying to make it really a community service, a community anchor. And it's finding like-minded people like you who can work with us, who identify both problems, but more importantly,
Solutions.
maybe is opportunities, right?
Yep. What is a long-term vision for Temple Health's role in Philadelphia's economic and health landscape?
A healthy organization grows. So we're healthy now and we're growing. So with that growth, our capital budgets have quadrupled, and so we find out what the community needs, the primary care at Zion and in the pharmacy area, and so we expand those, and then we expand those services where we're good. Our transplant program is up about 25% this year. Um, we're working with the university to identify a site to build a major research and innovation and translation building on North Broad Street. We're talking 150 to $200 million facility.
Mm-hmm.
Our cancer center is one of the original 15 NCI designated comprehensive centers. And we do about $100 million worth of research. The medical school does $80 million of research. And that sounds like a lot, but the City of Hope in LA does $500 million. So if we can double or triple the number of researchers, that's 250 more scientists and 200 more labs developing intellectual property. We have some pretty exciting drugs and treatments coming out of Fox Chase that will help not just Fox Chase and Philadelphia, but the whole region. So it's really being successful and leaders in what we do. And we have a number of programs now that are world class. My wife recently came down from Lancaster for a very high-end cardiology procedure, and the care is better at Lancaster than it is, or in Philadelphia than it is in Lancaster. So she came down in the middle of COVID, and her doctors in Lancaster are stunned. How'd you get to these scores? How are you doing so well? And she says, well, I had my procedure at Temple, and they hate that. But every time we do a successful transplant from Allentown or Lancaster or Reading, then the next patient comes down and that grows, and the families are here for a week. They need restaurants, they need hotels, and then it becomes a growth opportunity for all of North Philadelphia.
Yeah. What does a win-win partnership looks like between Temple Health and the Northborough Renaissance, especially as we work to create this shared vision of a health district?
The win becomes when there's no empty buildings.
That's right.
And no one wants to sell any because it's so successful. And Lancaster, I think, is a good example of that. No one would move downtown, and my nephew's lived down there for 10 years. He works for IBM. He drives to Delaware every day, but he won't leave Lancaster because it's so exciting. It's so growing. And with our research capacity, our patient care ties to the community, I think we can make the same things happen here.
Yeah. And I think for the Northborough Renaissance, the one for us is that the narrative changes around health equity and income, and that regardless of your zip code or where you live, your health is just as good as anywhere else, and that we are bringing those services to every community because you deserve it.
We have family sustaining incomes. Our housekeepers make $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
They have the best benefits you've ever seen. So you can start as a housekeeper, take some more courses, become a cath lab tech, make $100,250, become a nurse, make $130,000, become a CRNA and make $300,000. So the healthcare career opportunities are just unbelievable. That's why we have these programs with the high school to get kids excited. I remember 20 years ago, we couldn't get guidance counselors to recommend their students, and this is in Lancaster, to go into the health sciences. So I took the guy, about 50 of them, out to dinner, and I said, how many of you make $100,000? And none of them raised their hand. I said, well, here's the 30 jobs in the hospital that make $100,000, and here's how they go to school, and here's the doors that it opens up. We have 150 research nurses. 5 years ago, they made $80,000. Now they're making $125,000. They come work with us for a year or two. Then they go into pharma, and they can make another $50,000 or $100,000.
Very nice.
So there are many foundational as well as long-term family-sustaining jobs at Temple. And we have a lot of openings. We'd be glad to have more folks from the community come and look at
Yeah,
us.
you have to share it with us. We just launched our new website that includes a place to post jobs. So one last question, and then we'll wrap up. What does hashtag Think Broad means to you?
It means excitement. It means opportunity. It means positivity. And, there's a lot of naysayers. I've worked at inner city poor hospitals for the last 20 years, and people didn't think these hospitals could make it. One hospital was actually on the New York closure list, and now it's the community anchor in East Buffalo.
Yeah.
And it has a new $250 million building. Grady in Atlanta was one day away from closing. On my first day, we had $857 for a $200 million payroll. And payday was Friday. I had to come up with $56 million in 2 days. And so now Grady is revamped. It's the community anchor. It used to be a horrible location, and now it's a vibrant part of Atlanta. I was down a couple weeks ago because my son lives there, and I went to visit Grady, and I couldn't find a parking space. So a place that was a part of the community that you and I wouldn't go to at night now has no issues.
Yeah.
Georgia State's grown right next door.
Yeah.
And I think North Philadelphia is prime for that.
We are.
And our neighbors deserve it.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.